Welcome to Nightline. I'm Raymond Goh. News making the headlines. ASEAN will be formidable if it speaks with one voice, says Tun Dr. Mahathir. And Johor Darul Takzim beat Kedah to lift 2019 Malaysia Cup. Good morning. ASEAN can be a regional economic power if it can work together when dealing with large economic powers on the global stage. Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad said it is important for the 10 members of ASEAN to hold talks as an association as opposed to negotiating as individual countries.
Well, if you want to be listened to, you must be powerful, you must be strong, or you must be very rich. Otherwise, nobody listens to you. If we function as a region, as a regional organization, as ASEAN, then we will have more people to argue in our favor at this forum. And when you have more people, you can attend all the meetings and express your views. But if you go alone, or if Thailand goes alone, it will not be as strong as 10 ASEAN countries. So we need to be together. We need to speak with one language.
He was speaking to a full house at the dialogue session at the ASEAN Business and Investment Summit, ABIS 2019, in Bangkok, Thailand on Saturday. The Prime Minister also stressed that it is important for members to agree on any decision made prior to heading to international meetings. Citing the example of palm oil, Tun Dr. Mahathir said ASEAN must stand together and fight countries or world powers who practice bullying. He added that the ban from the European Union is an attempt to sabotage the versatile commodity and jeopardize ASEAN's economy. ASEAN must prioritize its interests before reaching an agreement on the Code of Conduct, COC, on the contentious South China Sea dispute. United States Assistant Secretary of State for East Asia and the Pacific, David Stilwell, said it is imminent for ASEAN to resist the coercive behavior of China that is expanding its territorial claim in the area. In fact, he added the effort to reach a consensus on the COC agreement could potentially be a point of friction in the ASEAN meeting in Bangkok this weekend.
That energy and trade and other things can move freely through the South China Sea, which the other side is building bases to prevent that from happening. And we hear words like, well, we would never interfere with the movement of shipping and through that. Well, that's saying that they think they could, they just choose not to. I would, if I was ASEAN, I would reject that outcome. This is an open body of water. It's the global commons, and it's there for everyone's use, not the exclusive use of any party.
He said the United States continuously defends the freedom of navigation of trade and goods in this region on the basis that economic prosperity must be benefited by all the claimants of the area, Malaysia, Vietnam, Brunei, and the Philippines.
We always have had an interest in that, both through terms of security, but also trade, which, as we mentioned, the U.S. is the #1 investor in the region with nearly $1 trillion. That investment and those resources and those goods flow through the South China Sea. We are there to make sure that not just us, but ASEAN and others, and China have free use of that space.
However, China's dominance in the South China Sea indicates that it undermines other claimants overlapping equal rights in the open waters. The United States expresses support to the binding of COC. But he emphasized that it requires China's utmost commitment to honor the framework to make a steady progress in the dispute.
What the U.S. brings is a strong request that it follows the law of the Sea Convention to prevent confusion, to ensure the safety and continued movement. I don't think ASEAN should be in any hurry to conclude this negotiation. It certainly should stand up for ASEAN interests.
He was speaking after a media roundtable briefing in Kuala Lumpur. Earlier, during an interview with the Financial Times, Tun Dr. Mahathir confirmed that Malaysia has rejected an offer from Goldman Sachs of less than $2 billion in compensation over the 1MDB scandal, compared with its publicly stated demand of $7.5 billion. He said the government is not satisfied with the offer and is still negotiating with the investment bank.
Tun Dr. Mahathir said Malaysia is willing to settle its claim with Goldman Sachs if the offer is reasonable. Malaysia has charged Goldman Sachs and 17 current and former directors of its units for allegedly misleading investors over bond sales totaling $6.5 billion that the US bank helped raise for 1MDB. US authorities say about $4.5 billion was siphoned from 1MDB. The US Justice Department said this week it had struck a deal to recover $1 billion in fund allegedly looted from 1MDB from fugitive businessman Joe Teck Low. Tun Dr. Mahathir responded to the claim, saying Malaysia would file a claim on Low's forfeited assets.
It will be a six-cornered fight for the Tanjung Piai parliamentary seat after 6 candidates, including 2 independent candidates, submitted their nomination papers Saturday. Returning officer for the by-election, Zulkifli Muhammad Tahir, announced their names as the contesting candidates at about 11 a.m. after the end of nomination, which was held at Dewan Jubli Intan Sultan Ibrahim in Pontian, Johor. Pakatan Harapan candidate Karmaini Sardini was the first to confirm his candidacy. Accompanied by his proposer Muhammad Zaiful Bakri and seconder Pang Wee Kiew, the Tanjung Piai Bersatu Division chief submitted his nomination paper at 9:03 a.m. 3 minutes later, Tanjung Piai MCA Division Chief Datuk Sri Dr. Wee Jek Seng, together with his proposer Muhammad Isa Ismail and seconder L. Krishnan Kumar, arrived, followed by Berjasa candidate Dr. Badrul Hisham Abdul Aziz and independent candidate Dr. Ang Chuan Lok. Gerakan's Deputy Secretary General Wendy Subramaniam became the 5th candidate to submit nomination paper, before another independent candidate, Farida Aryani Abdul Ghaffar, completed the list. There were initially some problems with the 43-year-old businesswoman's nomination papers, but the matter was resolved after it was confirmed that her proposer, Muhammad Kamarul Sahmi, and seconder Saiful Bahri Adnan are registered voters in Tanjung Piai. 10 minutes before nomination closed, a man arrived at the nomination center to submit his papers, but was not able to do so due to the absence of his proposer and seconder. Outside the nomination center, members and supporters of contesting parties gathered in a show of support for their respective candidates. Among the party leaders seen were Bersatu President Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, Johor Menteri Besar Dr. Sahruddin Jamal, Amanah President Muhammad Sabu, and DAP advisor Lim Kit Siang. Polling is on November 16th, while early voting is on November 12th. Meanwhile, Home Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said there will be a special fast lane on the causeway for the Tanjung Piai voters returning from Singapore to vote in the by-election November 16th. This would help the voters avoid traffic and make it back in time to vote.
Untuk pengundi yang bekerja di Singapura, saya sebagai Menteri yang bertanggungjawab untuk membantu melicinkan perjalanan di Tambak Johor, telah bincang dengan pihak immigration. Dalam mereka menunjukkan mereka adalah penduduk Pontian dan nak mengundi pada hari 16 hari bulan, kita ada sediakan satu lane. Ada lane, dia masuk situ, jadi dia akan cepat masuk, boleh sampai sebelum waktu penamat 5 petang ke tak silap saya pada 16 hari bulan. Jadi daripada tengah malam sampai besok, kalau mereka datang daripada Singapura dan dia kata dia voters in Tanjung Piai, dia akan bagi satu kemudahan.
The fast lane will be open at the Customs, Immigration and Quarantine Complex in Johor Bahru from early in the morning on voting day.
Meanwhile, the minister also said the allegations that those detained for supporting the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam LTTE were abused, tortured and threatened were not true.
Saya semak dengan pihak Ketua Polis Negara, dengan pihak pegawai yang terlibat. Mereka menyatakan itu tidak benar. Pasal bila mereka dibawa keluar dengan peguam mereka, berhadapan dengan hakim dalam kamar dan sebagainya, nak bincang, tak ada yang membuat aduan mengatakan mereka ini dipukul dan sebagainya. Tapi apapun saya tak boleh terima bulat-bulat. Kita buat siasatan dan ini hak kalau mereka berpendapat ada tindakan-tindakan yang tidak selari dengan undang-undang, kasar, yang membawa kesan pada badan mereka, mereka boleh buat laporan.
He said the government does not view lightly the abuse allegations of the detainees.
In light of complaints from parents on difficulties in complying with the child car seat ruling, the government will fine-tune the policy on the usage of child restraint system. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Wan Azizah Wan Ismail said though the safety of children on the road had been the government's priority, the difficulties faced by parents would have to be considered.
Kita dah buat polisi bahawa kita nak safety anak-anak ni yang paling utama. Sebab kita pun nak negara tua, jadi banyak sangat aksiden, kemalangan jalan raya melibatkan kematian, terutamanya kanak-kanak. Jadi ini adalah salah satu langkah. Memang kita kekangan tu ada pada segi mereka tidak mampu, namun kita nak fikirkan pada keseluruhannya.
Datuk Seri Dr. Wan Azizah, who is also Women, Family and Community Development Minister, was speaking to the media after the launch of the National Family Month in Putrajaya on Saturday. Last month, the minister announced that the government will be enforcing the child safety seat rule for vehicles starting January 1st next year. The new policy seeks to ensure children are protected from serious injuries or fatalities during road accidents.
In Selangor, 14 police personnel were detained on Friday after they were caught in possession of ketum juice following a raid at a public parking lot in Shah Alam. The raid, codenamed Ops Blue Devil, was based on a tip-off that said a group of police and 6 patrol cars had gathered there. Checks then found 2 bottles of ketum juice in the bonnet of one of the patrol cars and under another vehicle. All those detained, however, were later released on police bail after they tested negative for drugs and illegal substances. Still in Selangor, police have confirmed receiving a report from the Security Division of Sepang International Circuit on a theft case at the MotoGP on Friday. They, however, did not reveal any other details of the case. On Friday, a porter reported on a break-in at the Angel Nieto Racing Camp, stating that the stolen components included a complete set of shock absorber, brake caliper and disc, laptop, tools and tyre heaters.
Schools are one of the best platforms to instill good values among the younger generation. And that's what SK Sri Hartamas did early on Saturday when students, teachers and parents planted 100 pokok semambu in their Unity We Love Tree program. Raja Farahani Amanda Raja Faisal has the details.
The Unity We Love Tree program started at 8 a.m. involving students from Standard 3, 4 and 5. Apart from the tree planting, there were also group activities like singing the national anthem and quizzes.
Rasa berbakti kepada sekolah, dapat tengok pokok-pokok di sekolah. Itu je.
Dapat mencantik.
Sebab mencantikkan sekolah. Lepas tu dapat udara yang segar.
Gembira dan seronok. Dapat belajar alam sekitar.
Organised by Yayasan Perpaduan Malaysia in association with Tata Consultancy Services, the 2 main goals of the program were to strengthen the unity among the multi-ethnic students and maintain the environmental sustainability.
In this Klang Valley, we have gone to all the small primary school, secondary school in our effort to build the community as well as for the environment. So our focus for the past few years is on environment, on education and also on wellness.
Menanam pokok ni adalah satu simbolik di mana pokok tu ditanam oleh anak-anak yang berbilang kaum. Jadi kita nak tanamkan bukan saja pokok tapi tanamkan perasaan bersatu padu.
Planting trees can have huge benefits for the ecosystem. It is a huge step for the younger generation, especially children, in preserving our ecosystem for the future of our planet. As the saying goes, Everything begins with the first step. Raja Farhani Amanda Raja Faisal reporting for Media Prima Berhad. Let's plant some trees!
This is Nightline, but after this breather, it's Nightline's esports segment. Stay tuned. Nightline continues now with the esports segment. Now, as the country's esports scene continues to grow, many challenges are faced within the industry that can tarnish the image of Malaysian esports. Key players such as the Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC, and esports brand Kitaman play vital roles in boosting the image of esports in Malaysia. Wanezul Islam tells the story.
Welcome to the esports segment with me, Wanezul Islam. Now we have a very special interview lined up today. We have Encik Hasnul Hadi from MDEC as well as Jazil Jomlin from Kitaman, and we'll be talking about their focus within the Malaysian esports industry. Let's find out more. Okay, so for my first question to Encik Hasnul, with MDEC getting budget from the government, 20 million ringgit, what will MDEC's focus be with that budget for 2020?
The 20 million ringgit is to really look at how we're going to grow local heroes with the digital content. And with specific, if you're looking at very specific towards esports, this will be around game development. So with this budget, we're hoping, but we know exactly that we're going to use this to actually incentivize and actually be able to make creators, give them an opportunity for them to, one, create their content. Second is to actually look at how do we help them produce that content, and most importantly, how they actually get to the market.
Now we have Kitaman, who have always been addressing the local esports and boosting the image of esports, especially here in Malaysia. Now, Jazil, what can you tell me? How can esports be elevated more in this region? What more can be done?
I think one of the things that we can do to further bolster esports is to improve its legitimacy and affirmation, similar to what Hasnul was mentioning. And I think going further more than just issues between organizers and participants, I think we need more legitimate content.
One thing that's been quite highlighted in the industry, especially for esports, is healthy gaming. Now, how does healthy gaming, why is it important first of all, and how does that help mix or combine with creative content industry?
I think both Kitaman and MDEC, we are firm believers that esports is not necessarily a bad thing, gaming included, but there just needs to be a more regulated and controlled environment where we stray away from the stereotypical sedentary and antisocial lives that these gamers live, and we prepare them towards more brighter future prospects when it comes to careers. And when we talk about careers, you talk about creative content usually when it comes to gaming and esports.
Okay, Hasnul. Now, the greatest challenge within esports is knowing, with the allocation by the government, the main concern right now is what are we going to do with that, and is there a blueprint or is there a plan forward with that allocation?
There are always challenges, and I think this is part of the job, and in terms of making any industry grow. One of the things that MDEC has been working on the side is this thing called the Digital Content Ecosystem Policy. And and with this policy, we are looking at how we can actually, at the national level, essentially look at how we can actually accelerate further the growth of the digital content industry, which includes games and esports. Now, further to that, we have actually been in constant conversations with the Ministry of Youth and Sports on their esports blueprint, and we have given a lot of thought, a lot of ideas, and also a lot of sort of plans that we are incorporating with them in terms of specifically in the esports blueprint that they are creating, and we hope that it will be shown off very, very, very soon.
Wanezul Islam for Nightline, TV3.
Coming up, bodies from helicopter crash found. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. On to the foreign front now. South Korean rescuers have located 3 bodies believed to be among 7 who went missing after their chopper crashed into the sea shortly after taking off from islets disputed with Japan. Officials said 1 body was found inside the chopper located at a depth of 72 meters, 600 meters south of the islets, while the other 2 were found in the water nearby. It was, however, not yet possible to identify the 3 bodies as a search operation was still underway to retrieve them and find the other 4 still missing. The helicopter had just picked an injured fisherman up from Dokdo, which is known as Takashima in Japan, when it went down on Thursday night. The 7 people on board were 5 rescuers, the fisherman, and a civilian. Sports football. Johor Darul Takzim JDT were crowned champions for the 2nd time after defeating 5-time champions Kedah 3-0 in the final at the National Stadium in Bukit Jalil on Saturday. The Southern Tigers took the lead after just 27 minutes through Sebastian Velasquez's effort. Safawi Rasid then doubled the advantage 7 minutes later as his spectacular free kick hit the crossbar and beat Muhammad Ifwat Akmal Sheikh Qasim on Kedah's post. Kedah tried to bounce back in the second half, but it was JDT who sealed the win in the 58th minute thanks to Muhammad Shafiq Ahmad's powerful header. It was the 3rd title for the Southern Tigers squad this season, having retained the Super League title for 6 consecutive seasons, besides winning back-to-back Charity Shield titles. The trophy and prizes were presented by the Tunku Temenggung of Johor, Tunku Idris Sultan Ibrahim. And the rugby action wraps up Nightline this time around. Before we leave, let's take a look as the 2019 Nanchang Flight Convention kicks off in Nanchang City of East China's Jiangxi province on Saturday. With that, I'm Raymond Goh. Thank you for watching and have a good weekend.